Howdy folks, I'm Cranky Candy Cane, combatively chasing candy consumers.
I'm Amber.
And here are more candy consumers for us to chase. That includes any of you who are consuming the candy. The candy cane has its revenge, or will soon. Let's get started. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Let My Brother and His Family Stay at My Place for Christmas because they quote-unquote borrowed my dog's toy last year. Last Christmas, my brother, his wife, and their 2 kids stayed at my house for the holidays. It was a bit chaotic, but I was happy to host. I have a golden retriever, Max, who is the love of my life and a huge part of my family. He has a favorite stuffed toy, a beat-up duck that he's had since he was a puppy. This toy is his comfort object, and he's always carrying it around with him. Well, during their stay, my niece, 6 at the time, got very attached to Max's duck. I told her that it was Max's favorite toy and even showed her how much he loved it. But when they left, I realized that they had taken it home with them. I texted my brother thinking that it was a misunderstanding, and I asked for it back. He said that my niece cried about leaving it, so they let her keep it. I was pretty upset, and I explained that it wasn't just a random toy, it was Max's favorite. He said, "It's just a dog toy, go buy another." I told them that they needed to send it back, but they refused. I even offered to buy my niece a new duck toy that looked the same, but they still said no because she was too attached to it now. Max was visibly sad for the next few weeks afterwards, and he looked for his duck every single day. It broke my heart. I ended up scouring the internet to find the exact same duck, but Max never loved it as much as the original. Fast forward to this year, my brother asked if he could stay again for Christmas, and I told him no. He was shocked and asked why. I reminded him about the duck incident and how disrespectful it was. He said that I was being petty and holding a grudge over a dog toy. My parents and my other siblings are now calling me the Grinch, saying that I'm punishing my niece for something that she didn't understand at the time. But to me, it was not about a toy, it's about the principle and the blatant disregard for my boundaries. If they couldn't respect something so small, why would I trust them to respect my home again? Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Absolutely not the jerk. At least children have the ability to understand English or whatever language they speak a lot of time, whereas pets do not. The dog lost his favorite toy with absolutely no reason or understanding and had to mourn that. And Opie's brother could easily have rectified it by bringing back the toy. Like, even if the kid took it without the dad knowing, which it's not clear, like it seems like the parents nabbed the toy for the kid, but even if the kid just took the toy, it would have been easy enough to return it, tell the kid, this is not yours, you can't take other people's stuff, the doggy will be sad without his toy, and return it.
What do you think about the whole excuse that she's too young to understand
She's not
or
too young to understand unless she has a significant, learning delay,
yeah.
in which case you still have to make decisions. Like, you still can't let a child steal. Like, even if
Yeah.
they're like 1 and they take something that's not theirs, you take it back and the kid will cry. They may not have concept or understanding of why you're taking it from them, but you can't just take other people's stuff.
Well, I think a big thing is that parents aren't supposed to isolate their kids from basically their emotions, right? And what they're trying to do here is they're trying to insulate their daughter from having any negative emotions. Like,
Hmm.
she's sad because she couldn't take the dog toy with her. Well, there's going to be a lot of times when your daughter is sad, right? But there you can't prevent them all. Though that's why you have to teach kids how to cope with these feelings and not allow them to always get their way.
Right. It could have been a very good learning moment for her, but instead it just helps build a feeling of entitlement.
Hmm. So, I mean, I certainly understand kids get attached to things all the time, right? But that's why parents are around to kind of help guide their children and say, well, as much as you're sad about this, think about how sad Max is to lose their favorite toy, or frame it as like, well, you have a favorite bunny at home, how would you feel if someone came by and stole that from you or took that from you?
Hmm.
And I think framing it in an age appropriate way would really help the kid to understand that this is not a good thing to do. So I feel bad for the poor dog
Hmm.
because the dog clearly misses its toy. And I think even now, if they were to bring it back, the dog would probably be overjoyed about the toy.
Potentially, because part of that depends on the scent. If they've washed it or something, it might not have the same scent.
Yeah. And it might not, right? So It might be that the dog would recognize it though. So I don't know. It's really hard to say. I think they're acting entitled and spoiled.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And I don't blame OP at all for not wanting them back at their home. If they return the toy, then they can start talking about coming over during Christmas times, right?
Yeah, well, they've never even acknowledged they've done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And until there's an acknowledgement of wrongdoing, again, how would you trust them not to take something else because the daughter likes it?
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Latence says, if only your poor niece had decent parents who would help her understand. Children who are never taught right from wrong have such a hard time learning how to become decent members of society. You aren't reacting to your niece's mistakes. She was just a child. You are protecting yourself and your family from adults who are devoid of compassion to others and have shown that they have no respect or regard for their own family when it inconveniences them. They have shown that they can't be trusted in your home or car or allowed unsupervised access to basically anything. Because of their own choices, they have to deal with the consequences and can pay for a hotel or let someone else host them, not the jerk. And Gray-Eyed Queen 7 says, she was 6. She was more than old enough to understand too. And My Poor Nerve says, like one of the first lessons a parent should teach a child is you can't have everything you want. It's not exactly a nebulous concept either. All right, folks, and our next letter is an update. Update, am I the jerk for refusing to let my roommate's boyfriend live with us after he tried to test me? All right, folks, and for anyone who's curious about this one, basically OP has a roommate who has a boyfriend that's over all the time, and OP got sick of it and just wanted them to compensate them for at least staying there most of the time.
And then the boyfriend came up with a list of unreasonable demands like OP can't have guys over and all kinds of nonsense.
Yeah. Hi everyone, it's been a wild ride since my original post, and I wanted to give an update because a lot has happened. First off, I want to thank everyone who commented. It helped me see things in a completely new light. Honestly, I didn't even realize how much I was being gaslighted by Jake and Ashley until I read some of your insights. I thought that they were my friends, but now I see how manipulative and toxic their behavior really is. Maybe I just hated the thought of not having any friends, but who needs enemies with these kinds of friends? Not gonna lie, it still breaks my heart to realize this, and I cried a lot. But that doesn't change anything. Haha, I don't know why I'm saying this. It's just been a really emotional day. Please forgive my rant. Since our confrontation, Jake has gone full victim mode. He's been telling mutual friends that I'm trying to ruin his life and kick him out of his girlfriend's apartment. Let me remind you, this man doesn't pay rent or contribute to any bills, so calling it his girlfriend's apartment is already laughable. He's been painting me as some kind of controlling, jealous monster who can't handle his straightforward personality. Meanwhile, Ashley is eating it up and defending him, saying that I'm overreacting and causing unnecessary drama. What's worse is I've started noticing just how much control Jake has over Ashley. She's completely bought into his narrative and is now acting like I'm the enemy. For example, she told me last night that my attitude is making it hard for them to feel comfortable in their own home. Their home. This apartment is 50% mine, but suddenly I'm being treated like the unwelcome guest. I decided that I've had enough. I'm already documenting everything, his constant presence, his freeloading, and now his smear campaign. I'm reaching out to my landlord this week. Most leases have clauses about long-term guests, and Jake has definitely overstayed his. As for Ashley, I don't know if there's any saving our friendship. I'm heartbroken because I thought that she cared about me, but now I realize that she's supporting Jake's abusive behavior. Thank you to everyone who opened my eyes to what was really happening. I'll post another update once I've spoken to my landlord and taken further action. For now, I'm just trying to reclaim my space and my peace of mind. Also, I really want to thank you for just caring and being there. This is what I really needed to hear from you all, and you were honest and fair with me. I'm very grateful for the support that I got that I couldn't get anywhere else. So thank you. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, it's an unfortunate situation, but I'm glad that OP is taking steps to get out of the situation. I really hope that people do not take Jake's word at this because he's telling a very skewed version of events.
Yeah.
And I hope OP has good luck getting out of the lease and finding somewhere else to live that doesn't involve these people.
Yeah, I feel bad for OP because this is a really challenging situation, especially when you have one person who's claiming that you're being an awful person. I would just consider making a social media post kind of clarifying the situation, saying that this isn't what's happening at all. And that way the story is out there and you can do as much damage control as you can. In the meantime, hopefully OP can get Jake banned from the apartment. Because he kind of deserves it at this point in time.
Oh yeah, well, I hope the landlord comes down on him.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Darn Gravity says, it's quite common for people to change when they get into a new relationship. And especially for some people to completely subsume who they are to totally become what the other person wants. Because they like the idea of being in a relationship more than they like the idea of being themselves. Do please update us with whatever the landlord says, and good luck. And OP replies, oh my goodness, that sounds exactly like what happened. I've never been in a serious relationship before, so this might be the wrong place to ask, but how do I prevent myself from having the same fate? Is there anything that I can do more than actively being aware of it? Well, I mean, I think that's actually a really interesting question to ask, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think asking yourself periodically if you're staying true to yourself and to your interests. Are you still doing the things you love? Are you still able to see the people you value? And just kind of checking in because a lot of times these relationships do end up becoming abusive. As someone who expects you to fundamentally change who you are, is probably not going to be a good partner for you long term. And like some people are just chameleons and they kind of adopt the personality of whoever they're close with at the time. But if you have a good sense of self and you know what you value and what you enjoy, just make sure you're staying true to that.
I think a good benchmark for any relationship is, are you a better person inside of the relationship than outside of the relationship? Is this relationship something that's helping you to become a better person? And if you look and reflect and you're like, actually, I'm kind of becoming more of a petty individual, then maybe that is not the relationship for you, right? We, of course, are a lot like the company that we keep. And you have to really pay attention and be self-aware of your own behaviors and your own actions, I think. So periodically, being self-reflective, considering the actions that you take. Do you feel like you have like an objective, view on the world, right? And, having friends and family who kind of help to be objective sounding boards can always be helpful if you kind of lack a lot of introspection too, right? Asking honest and fair questions like, is this, am I becoming a worse person than, kind of thing.
Well, that's a good point. And like asking how the way you treat other people, does that make you feel good? Like it seems like OP and this friend had a close relationship before, and the friend should reflect in, is the way I'm treating OP making me feel good? Do I feel like I'm being a good person when I do this to her?
Yeah.
And it may be hard to see because she's so wrapped up in her boyfriend's skewed view of the world, but this is not a good way to treat a friend.
No. And Curious Josh says, good for you on standing up for yourself. For your information, a 22-year-old male should almost be graduating college, not freeloading off a 19-year-old girlfriend, demanding that no one uses the internet during his gaming time. This guy is a walking red flag. And OP replies, and he's not even a good player. Haha, I'm joking, I have no idea. But he gets really angry all the time and screams at his screen and throws stuff across the room. That's also actually troubling, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's abusive behavior right there. People who have a hard time controlling their temper, that can escalate to, physical violence against partners very quickly. And the idea is, yeah, that's just not a good sign at all.
Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not wanting to host Christmas after the family stole all of the Thanksgiving leftovers? That's right folks, we're still on Thanksgiving stuff. My husband and I hosted the family for Thanksgiving. We made 2 turkeys, a ham, 20 pounds of mashed potatoes, 2 pans of dressing, sweet potato casserole, the full Thanksgiving menu. My in-laws always bring a ton of desserts, trays of cookies, pies, rolls, etc., which helps so much. We had a lovely evening, good food, good drink, good company. Later in the evening, when people were packing up to go, my husband had bought some plastic leftover containers for this moment and said, help yourself to some leftovers. We then went back to the front of the room to continue socializing. I was pretty tired and I put up my feet until it came time to walk everyone out. I looked into the kitchen and I saw that the food on the island and the table was put away, and I went to bed. The next morning, I woke up starving, dreaming of turkey, mashed potatoes, and gravy. I opened the fridge and I stood there in shock. It was completely empty except for a bag of turkey wings and half a bag of dressing. I thought that there had to be some kind of mistake, and I went to check the fridge in the garage. Nothing there either. I sat in shock, trying to comprehend what had happened to all the food. When my husband walked into the kitchen, I asked him if there had been some kind of miscommunication. Did he offer the leftover food to our relative's charity organization? He said that he had not. He had observed another relative and his entire family carrying out the food that they had brought, unopened desserts that the in-laws had brought, in addition to gallon Ziploc bags of the food that we had made. Did I mention that I had made 20 pounds of mashed potatoes? It was a pleasure to make the meal for us to share together, and I welcomed a reasonable amount of leftovers. But to literally rob your host and take everything is out of bounds in my book. Now I don't want to host Christmas because of their greedy behavior. Am I the jerk? Edit, I've come back to say that I've had a few days to think about this, and I got a lot of really good advice from all of you. I agree that I should have stayed on the job a little longer and put the food away for my family's meal the next day, and then either portion some of the leftovers out or let them have it afterwards. I clocked out early, and that's my own fault. Some said that the intent was probably not malicious, that they may have taken my and my husband's disinterest in the box food as a signal that we were done with it entirely. Others said that it was a compliment to our cooking and that it was so tasty that it became irresistible. A lot of you have been through something similar or worse, food removed from funerals and weddings, and you just made adjustments to how you handle things in the future. I think that's what I'll do, follow through and put up the part that I want to keep before enjoying the festivities, and that way everyone has a good time and we get a second plate the next day. I may also host Christmas, but it will be more of a potluck situation. Thank you all for your advice. Even the ones that said you're the jerk, I'd like to think that I learned something. All right, folks, what do you think?
I think OP's approach in the edit seems like a really fair one. While it's generally understood that when people say help yourself, they don't mean take literally everything. OP wasn't as clear necessarily as they could have been, and there were a lot of family members who didn't take unreasonable portions. Not that OP is ever obligated to host. I'd lean toward the people who took all the food are jerks here, because it's general social etiquette that like you take a little bit extra, but you don't just like clean everything out. But without more information, it's hard to say too much about them.
So here's my thoughts on this, right? I think that in general, if you're going to want to clean someone out of leftovers, that's something that you have to absolutely ask about, right? You need to ask them and be sure that this is food that they don't want. And usually that needs to be something that's offered as well. So if you're trying to get rid of food, because sometimes people are trying to get rid of food after these events, right? And someone might be very insistent and be like, oh, please take all of this if you really want it. We do not want it. Blah, 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 right? That's usually how that kind of etiquette is handled, right? But you shouldn't assume that the food should be cleaned out, right? So I think that that's really where they went wrong. I don't think that this necessarily was malicious, but I think that they need to have a better understanding of etiquette. And it could also be that maybe they are having struggles with food and finances, and so they saw this as a opportunity for them to be able to have a few meals, right?
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I would need to know more information about their background to really thoroughly judge them. Like, they still probably should have cleared it with OP before they took everything, but if they are struggling and they're like, oh, well, OP said take as much, so we'll take everything, like,
Yeah.
that might be a little different situation than the typical, oh, take everything. I'm just going to take everything, even though I have plenty of food in my fridge, because why not?
Because, personally, if they were my relatives and they were struggling with food and they took all the food, then I'd be probably more happy that they could feed their kids and feed, the have enough food for themselves, right? So it really just depends, right? So difficult situation to judge in that respect. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Howl.
Halloween who?
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Howl.
Howl who?
How will you know unless you open the door?
I won't, because I refuse to open the door for any person who is knocking on it. And I have the special guest tea, some matcha. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy terrific Tuesday, folks. I hope your Tuesday is off to a terrific start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please have it on stealing stuff from relatives.
Don't steal stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of easy. Just don't steal stuff. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.